Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Pontiac Enchanté. My name is Carson Becky. I'm one of the co-directors of this concert series. The other co-director is my brother Tate, who's in the control booth for the live streaming edition of this concert. So in addition to those of you that I'm welcoming physically here, welcome to everybody viewing this concert via live stream. This is the first ever concert we've ever broadcast live, so both audiences are kind of witnessing a slightly unique event for us here, and it's also our first concert of 2020, so it feels like there's a lot of good first things happening. It's also the first time we've had a socially distanced concert with those of you watching the live stream. You won't see this, but our audience is kind of spread out in clumps around the hall. And it's a very different vibe, I think, than it used to be, but I think it hasn't lost the intimacy that we sort of made the hallmark of this series. So I'm just so glad to be presenting concerts again here. À nos invités francophones, je m'excuse, je ne parle pas très bien français, alors je dois parler en anglais aujourd'hui, mais bienvenue à tous. If you don't mind, as the live audience, I'm just going to speak to the live streaming audience for a minute because they have slightly different features to observe than you do. So to those of you viewing via live stream, you'll see on the page that you're looking at, on the right-hand side of the page, there's a button where you can view today's concert program. So if you click that, the program will appear in a different window of your web browser, so you'll know what Phil's playing. I think you're probably going to say what you're playing.
Yeah, I'll say something.
But just in case you want to check, just make sure that he's honest about it. You can check that program. You can also read about Phil. He's a very accomplished guy, and you can read about all of those accomplishments in his biography, which you can find by clicking the third button down, which says Read About the Artists. The middle button is a button that says Donate, and I think you might know what that button means. Those of you watching via live stream are watching this concert at no charge, but we would appreciate if you like the concert. Play well?
Yes.
If you like the concert, please just contribute whatever you feel you're able to contribute. You can go through there. It's very easy to make those donations by credit card, debit card, or PayPal. So thank you very much for joining us in this very novel experience. On the subject of novel, if you have any feedback for us about this concert, about the live stream experience in general, we'd love to hear from you. This is a new field for us and for many people in the classical music business. So please write to us at venturinghillsmusic@gmail.com. At every concert that I give here, I always say thank you to our sponsors. But today I have to give an even bigger thank you to our sponsors, because we really would not be here today without the continued support of the sponsors of this series. A lot of people say, the arts industry has suffered more than anybody else through this pandemic. I don't like to say that, because I think the world in general has suffered. Every industry has, I think, an equal burden to bear with this terrible kind of world problem. Having said that, everything in the arts industry hangs by a thread. That's just the nature of the business. And so were it not for our many sponsors supporting us and continuing to support us, regardless of what kind of future this year was going to bring, we wouldn't have been able to invest in the equipment that we're using today for this live stream show. We wouldn't be able to welcome a smaller audience than usual. We really wouldn't be here without them. So I would just like to go through and name every sponsor of the series, and I'd just like to really give a heartfelt thanks to all of them from the bottom of my heart. So starting with a sponsor who's here tonight, Miss Marg Campbell, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Miss Dasha Schenkman is not here tonight. She's actually in London, England. I think Dasha said she was going to watch the live stream, which is ambitious given the time of night it is over there. So thank you so much to Dasha. If you're listening or watching this tomorrow, thank you so much for everything you've done for the concert series. Bob and Sandra Barber will be here tomorrow in person. They've been sponsors for a few years. Thank you to them. The Desjardins Bank, thank you to them for their support. Mark and Deb Rundell and the RBC Rundell Wealth Management Group have been sponsors of the series since the beginning, since we started putting concerts on here 10 years ago. So thank you so much to them. Mark was very excited about the prospect of watching a concert from his couch, so I believe he might be joining us from there this evening. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to the Norton Rose Fulbright Law Firm for their support of the series as well. So again, thank you to all of our series sponsors. And if we could just give them a round of applause. say in-person concerts, because obviously a concert is an in-person experience, but usually at these concerts, there's a table at the back of the hall with forms where you can leave your name and email. How many people are here for the first time tonight, if anybody? 1, 2, 3. I know you guys. Yeah. 4. Okay, so to the 4 of you, I mean, actually 4 out of 23 is quite a high ratio. So welcome. And we would love it if you came back to concerts here. So if you would like to come back, the best way to find out about what we're doing next is to join our emailing list. That's our primary means of advertising and communication. So you can do that now by going onto our website, pontiacenchanté.ca, and clicking join our emailing list. So rather self-explanatory button. The other way to follow us and to find out what we're doing is to join our Facebook page. You can go on Facebook, search Pontiac Enchanté, and we post information about upcoming events there as well. Obviously, the socially distanced aspect of this evening is obvious to everybody. Everybody's wearing masks. Thank you for doing that. I will be wearing a mask when I'm in the audience as well. And thank you for moving so appropriately to your seat and all of that. And safety is a real concern. We need to make sure that everybody stays safe. I don't even know if we're going to be able to present concerts here for the rest of this year, so I'm very happy to be doing this today. I sent out a document to everybody, which I think everybody's had a chance to look at, just detailing the things that we're doing to make sure that everybody stays safe and understands how things will work while you're here. But just one thing that I think might not be totally clear, and I explained it to some of you when you arrived. If you need to use the bathroom, go right out of the door there. There's these kind of slats coming down from the wall. If you could line up for the bathroom, there's kind of little squares in the floor. Just line up behind the farthest one along of those and go as far to your right as possible, just so that people leaving the bathroom have space from you as they exit. When you use the bathroom, when you've finished, please leave the door open so the person following you doesn't have to grab that doorknob. It's just one less surface to touch. And when you're in there, if you could please close the door using a paper towel. So just again, to eliminate as many touching points as possible. And there's bottles of hand sanitizer everywhere. There's one just outside the bathroom, there's one on the bar back there, and there's 2 in the room behind. Please use those whenever you see fit, even just for fun, just go and take some. Just as much as possible, just sanitize your hands. And of course, when you're in your seats, Quebec regulations state that you don't need to wear your masks. I appreciate that all of you are doing so now. That's wonderful. When you're having a drink, obviously drinking through a mask is a challenge, and some would say impossible. So you're welcome to take your masks off while you're drinking in your seats. Whenever you're moving around the space, please keep your masks on. At intermission, we're going to keep the intermission to quite a strict 15 minutes because our online audience is experiencing something that you will not be experiencing tonight. They are going to be watching an exclusive interview with Maestro Phil Chiu and myself. So to all of you online, don't go away at the intermission. Stay and watch the interview. There's some pretty good, I would say pretty good content in there.
Well, you say nice things. You sound smart, so stay for that.
So those of you watching online, I hope you enjoy that interview with Phil. And everybody here, at intermission, do what you have to do, use the bathroom, get another drink, but let's keep it to 15 minutes so that we can get back on track with the concert and we don't keep our online guests waiting. Just a few brief words of thanks to some people that are here tonight that have helped this happen. First of all, thank you to my parents who own this facility and who have been gracious and happy enough to host concerts here during a pandemic. It's not an easy thing to do, so thank you so much to them for all their support. And then I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Madeline, who's been bartending this evening. Thank you to her for that. You might, all of you, online and physical guests, I'm just going to take a while to get used to that. You might notice some changes around the hall. For instance, this barn door, this screen cover up there, which actually has the words Pontiac Enchanté wood burned into it, quite faintly because most of you can't see it. That will be fixed. Anyways, that work has all, that wouldn't have been possible without the support of my uncle Tom Becky, so I'd like to say thank you for everything he does to help continue to develop this space. And finally, to my co-director Tate Becky, who's managing the considerably difficult technical side of things this evening and keeping our online audience with us. So thank you, Tate. And so all that remains to me now is to introduce our artist for this evening, Phil Chiu.
Hey.
Hey.
That was perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
so
on.
actually, yeah.
That's on.
Do you want to play the piano?
Nah, I don't know.
I'll leave you to do your thing. And, yes, so Phil Chiu.
Okay, wow. It's been a while, friends. Bonsoir à tous, merci beaucoup d'être venus. Ça me fait énormément plaisir d'être parmi vous ce soir. C'est un grand privilège que, mais en fait, c'est quand même un peu difficile à décrire, comme vous pouvez imaginer. It's an incredible pleasure, an honor, and privilege to be here amongst you tonight in a way that is quite difficult to really express properly in words. The fact that you're here speaks volumes about what it means to you to come together and share live music. And the second thing that also means to me is how much, for those of you who do know Pontiac Enchanté, how much the experience here must mean to you as well. And Carson, of course, explained all of that and enumerated all the people involved, but of course he did not get any thanks. And so before I won't do it again at the end, so I'll do it now. Thank you to Carson, Becky. I spent the last little while trying to figure out what to say. Normally I can talk about where I just came from, a concert I just did, but obviously none of that, has been taking place. So what to say then? And in a way, I almost didn't want to talk also so much about the music, which is something I often really love to do, and I will still share little bits. For me, COVID has been mostly silence. When it first came down in March, I didn't touch the piano for about a month and a half, 2 months maybe, except to teach occasionally. Sometimes happily. A break for a musician like this, where we don't have to apologize for not practicing, is a kind of it's an amazing thing. Yes, Carissa. And so that's sort of where things started. And just recently, I've begun playing a few concerts. One last night, I think it was. And it made me think about silence. I thought about the silence that I first appreciated so much, and still do at times. And then I began to realize at a certain point how silence was imposed on us in so many ways, and how it became something so uncomfortable, actually. And I realized it's also what I love so much about music, and I was reminded of it last night, and I'm sure we will share together in it tonight. When I think about classical music, and I think about the works that we have the privilege to play and share in together, for me, it's not about the truths and these sort of profound things that I'm going to tell you. Oh God, no, I have nothing to share in that regard. For me, I came to realize that what it's given me is I'm sorry to sound cheesy about it, is hope. It's this trust and this belief that I start this thing and I'm going to anticipate what's happening next. That great music is going to guarantee me that something more is coming, and it's leading me somewhere. And the more I get to know a piece, the more I can anticipate all the beautiful things that are going to come, assuming I do it well, assuming that the person playing in front of me is also doing a good job. And nowhere do I hear that more than in a really well-composed silence in a piece of music, whether it's between movements or within just a moment. And that's something that can't be reproduced, I'm sorry for our live stream audience, over a screen. For me, it's something that happens when we're in a space as beautiful as this, amongst friends and strangers and new friends, and where we can share in moments of silence, knowing that something is coming. So I failed in the one task Carson asked me to do, besides like don't mess up, which is please talk about the pieces. But I got a little bit carried away, and I didn't think I was going to be able to talk about it. That was Debussy, French composer, turn of the 20th century. You may have recognized the Clair de Lune, which was the third movement out of the four pieces there. It's a set of music. What can I say about it? It's about, I mean, you heard it, which is actually almost maybe a good time to talk about it. Fluidity and motion and lightness, but then also this sort of stupidly beautiful thing. And it's not by accident that he writes then this Passepied this little dance at the end. You almost think, why did he ruin this whole atmosphere? I was loving that beautiful thing, and then he sort of flips me off. But it's so French to be like, yeah, I guess that was beautiful, but like, don't take it too seriously. Let's do this other thing now. So don't take it too personally that he did that. Okay, so I had asked Carson to send out an email to all of you who had booked tickets to come, asking you if you had any things that you wanted to hear. Because as I said in the message, I couldn't imagine a better way to celebrate coming back together than playing something that you wanted to hear. We got a few requests. I was really kind of open to anything. I feel like some of you might have been afraid to ask for like the theme song for Amélie. Like it didn't really matter to me. You know, I was really happy to play anything, but I think if you thought to yourself, if I'm not asking for like Liszt's Sonata, which is a very big piece, half an hour long, then Phil's gonna think I'm an idiot. Don't worry, I would have said no had you asked for anything I couldn't do. Amélie would have been nice actually, compared to what some people have asked. But nonetheless, since I accepted the challenge, I thought I should push myself a little bit. And so some of the pieces on the program tonight are directly because of works that some people had requested. So this next one is of course from piano students. Who else? Our friends here, Alex, is it Anne? I forget the name of the... Andrew and Kathy, yes. They sent a message to their piano prof, Carson Becky, saying, we'd love to hear this piece. You know, would he be willing to do it? You know, but you don't want to let piano students down. I mean, and I imagine, even though I stopped for 2 months piano playing, I can't imagine that they stopped for a day, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, who am I to deny them this one little request? So it's a beautiful work that I learned way back when as a young student, actually. It's called Jeux d'eau. So either fountains or water games by another French composer exactly in the same period of time. Maurice Ravel is his name. And it's just a gorgeous work that, what am I going to say? It'll speak for itself again. The one thing I will say now, I don't mean to be offensive, is that you've seen I'm wearing a jacket. This is good. It's because I haven't forgotten how to be a professional. So I've demonstrated that. However, one of the things I picked up during lockdown quarantine was baking bread. And so I like to say it's because of the gym, but I'm not sure what my partner Marie would say. It's probably the bread. But the jacket's kind of pulling. So I'm going to take it off, but please know that I respect you enormously as my audience. If you want, I can tuck my t-shirt in. I'm so sorry. Here we go. So if there's one thing they can take away, it's knowing that professionals also play wrong notes. And this is how, if they didn't know already. So thank you again, you three, for requesting. That's one of my favorite pieces, actually. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, jeez, my goodness. Next time, Carson, make sure they don't get that email, though. Right? It's just like... so we'll end the first half with another work that includes a very famous movement, followed by two that no one seems to know a lot of the time. Just like the Clair de Lune, they actually share those things. The Clair de Lune in that Debussy, right, surrounded by three other movements that no one kind of knows, and now Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. Everyone knows, generally, sorry, I shouldn't say everyone, but many people know. I'm sure the amateur pianists among you have also played this many a time, which is a good thing. It's a beautiful piece of music, and then just sort of stopped and closed the book. The second and third movements are actually very beautiful. The second, it's been described, to me it's the best way to describe it, as a flower between two chasms, because the first movement, well, it sounds like it sounds. I don't need to paint it for you. You will hear it. And the third movement is really quite the other end of that spectrum. If the first is loneliness and a kind of whatever, solitude, the third is a strong reaction against that. So here you go, Beethoven's 14th Sonata, the Moonlight Sonata. Not named by him, by the way. A publisher decided, it happens so much of the time, in fact, the publishers decide this would be a good name, usually after the composer's passed, so then no one can fight with them. But I think it's for a good reason. Names don't just stick because they stick, and I think the name sticks because it means something to people. It evokes something.
so much for
Yeah, no problem.
absolutely awesome first half of the concert. So and thank you all for listening. I was watching our analytics for the stream, and we had 40 people viewing the stream as well as the 23 we have here. And so
But you're better. You're better.
and so if you assume that with 40 people watching the stream, most of those are probably 2 or 3 people watching together. This is a totally sold out concert. So thank you all so much for coming. We'll take a short intermission. Those of you watching online, please stay and watch a tell-all interview between Philip Chiu and myself. And all of you here, please grab another drink at the bar, use the washroom. You're welcome to go out to the balcony if you'd like a break from your masks, and see everybody back in 15 minutes. Thank you.
So, Carson, tell me.
Am I being interviewed? Well, thank you for that nice start to this interview, Philip. I would actually like to interview you if that's possible. Would that be all right? So
I guess it's your series, whatever.
As you can guess, I'm here with Philip Chiu. You've just enjoyed the first half of his piano recital. And while our live guests are doing whatever live guests do during the intermission of the concert, we thought we would give you an exclusive interview with Philip, just talking a bit about him as a musician, the program he's playing tonight, and how he's coped with this whole pandemic thing. And obviously, it's affected every musician, so it's always interesting to know what people are doing. So actually, maybe why don't we start with that, because this concert is obviously hugely affected by the events of the pandemic. So how has the pandemic been for you? What kind of things have you been up to?
I mean, really, I think the question's for Carson, honestly. As a musician and a presenter, he's been affected just as much, if not more, than just us performers, as lowly performers. So for sure, I mean, like every other musician, our seasons evaporated since March when the lockdown in Canada took place, and it's been an interesting period. The only thing I know for sure is that COVID has touched all of us, and in very different ways. I, for one, have been really grateful for the time off, in the sense that the forced time off, the chance to totally dial everything back and to not have to apologize and not to feel guilty for it, which is, as I'm sure you understand and can empathize, is something we struggle with a lot as musicians.
Yeah.
This feeling that if we're not doing something, we're doing something wrong. And if our phones aren't ringing, we're missing out on something. We have FOMO of the worst. Like, I don't want to be at a party. I want to be like asked to do a gig. You know what I mean? It's gig FOMO.
Yeah.
And so with having this COVID thing, there's so many obviously downsides on so many levels about it, but it's just having this time to myself has been actually really kind of amazing.
And on top of that, you have been playing gigs. I know you did some work for Toronto Summer Music, and also with the Banff Centre, I think.
Yes, that's right.
And so maybe tell us a little bit about how you find working in the kind of the new mediums that we're using, like live stream technology. What's the difference between? Obviously, there's a difference. How do you feel performing, sometimes in front of a camera but no live audience? Right. What's that like?
I mean, the honest truth is, it's not my favorite. For me, it's having the chance to speak with you and to play for you this way. It's a second best. But for me, it's not second best by a few milliseconds. It's like second best with like a large gap between what is first place, which is having people sharing the room and the space and not even just the acoustic, though that is a part of it. This idea that as performers, when we make sounds not sorry, how do I put this? With everything in mind, with the way the air blows on our face from an air conditioner, from the way that the sound pings off of the wall wherever we are listening at the same time as you are listening, and we are listening to you listening as we are playing, and there's something so special about that is impossible to reproduce otherwise, for now, until the technology gets better.
Yeah.
And so the live stream with Toronto Summer Music, I do have to say, was one of the recorded concerts rather, that were then streamed,
right.
Was a real highlight. Because though I had avoided doing most of that kind of stuff, that was the first chance I had to get back together with other musicians and make music live together, socially, properly distanced, and the whole thing. Jonathan Crow, artistic director, was adamant. He basically walked around with a tape measure. He had it out. No one could step close to anybody. He was tougher than the people at the Isabel, and they were already very tough, just about making sure everything was done right. But that was really great to have this chance to record great music with really great musicians and under really excellent conditions. Because otherwise it's happening in our living rooms. And I don't know about your living room. You have this space. My living room is not designed for beautiful concerts. So no matter how great my mic, no matter how great, all these kinds of things, they're a far cry from what I want to give, and I think what a lot of musicians want to be able to give to our audiences.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you were, these pre-recorded concerts for Toronto Summer Music were collaborative programs.
Yes.
And so today you are playing a solo program for us.
That's right.
And you're one of the few pianists I know, I think it's great. You go back and forth between lots of different modes of playing the piano. You work as a collaborative artist, you work as a solo artist. And lots of people try and specialize down one avenue. You don't do that, and that's really cool. So can you maybe talk a bit about why you don't do that? Why you choose to explore as many avenues as possible, and just a bit about how you gauge the difference between solo playing, collaborative playing, things like that.
What I love about Carson's questions is that I could just turn it right back on him, and he would give you like a much better answer than I'm going to give, much more succinct. And
we could actually do that, and then you can all vote.
Who gave the better answer? I mean, I keep saying because you do know. I don't mean to say you should know. What a gift we have as pianists to have so much music written, first of all, just for us.
Yeah.
And then to have piano parts available and in communion with all these other instruments. Like we have already like the greatest amount of repertoire to start with just for solo piano. And then on top of that, you know what I mean? Just another infinite amount of music that we written by the same composers that we love. Yeah. That just flesh out, whether not just chronologically, but just show us so much more of what they were about, and what they were trying to say. I mean, it's one thing to, of course, we can always listen to the symphonies, we can always listen to the string quartets, all those kinds of things, but that we have all this other music that we can touch and really play and dig our teeth into. That is like it's a joy that I hadn't known growing up, and then when I came to discover, for me it seemed a non-option to not pursue that. You know what I mean? Like why would anyone in their right mind not want to just devour that in the same ways they want to devour solo music? And the thing with chamber music, what a gift to be able to make music with other people, to be able to I mean, I say support because I really think so many of these piano parts are, even though we call them as duos in a sense and duets, depending on the piece that's written here. We're talking about a Brahms sonata. It is for sure more a piano piece almost than the instrumental piece, right? Yeah. But then there is a large chunk of the repertoire where we are supporting them, whether it's a Carmen Fantasy for violin, whether it's a piece for horn, introduction, and allegro, Franz Strauss. We are supporting characters. We are integral. I mean, we play the role of an orchestra around the soloist, but that is what it is. And to me, that is such another role that is so fulfilling. Maybe not everyone sees it that way. You know what I mean? Because other people, under a different light, they see it as being in the background, being in the shadow, being in... And frankly, I hear that in their playing. We hear that in their playing. We hear it when they play that part and they think that they're in the background, rather than being this sort of supportive, enveloping kind of presence, that makes it much more than just the two of you. That makes it more than just instrument and piano, whatever it may be. I don't know. So I just see joy and privilege in the sense how privileged we are to be able to access and partake in all this music. That to me it's inconceivable to not want to be a part of it all.
Well, I don't think I would give a better answer than that. I'm not going to try it. Well, so on the solo side of things, so you've relatively recently done a recording project featuring the 24 preludes of John Burge.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that project, because that's a project that is literally unique. Nobody else has done that.
That's true. That was like the first serious recording of those pieces for John. So John Burge is a great composer. He's I forget his role right now, dean of something or other at Queen's University in the music department, of course. And long story short, we had met years ago. He had sent me some of his music, which, to my great embarrassment, I put aside for a while. For whatever reason, I was busy working Carmen Fantasy for violin and piano. And but I forget what came up. I mean, I guess there came a point in my career where I was looking to sort of shift things not equal at the balance, but at least just get back into solo playing and make that, because I did miss it a lot. You know, for a long time I was doing just a lot of collaborative work, a lot of chamber music. And when I thought about making a recording, because I did want to sink my teeth into something, I thought the world right now doesn't really need another recording of Beethoven sonatas, or at least from me.
Yeah.
And what I thought I could do was do something that hadn't been done yet, exactly as you said. And so I went through a bunch of music, and I forget what happened exactly. I think John was coming to McGill to give a lecture recital on his pieces, and he had given out scores. And I remember I had the score at home, but I went to go to have a listen to it, and I remember hearing him talk about his pieces, and looking at the score, and then listening to him play. And John's a good pianist, so John, don't take this the wrong way if you're listening. But I'm sitting there going, oh, that's not how I do that. Oh, John, is that really? Like, I'm looking at it like, I would do that so differently. And I can't say I'd had yet that reaction to Canadian music up to that point. Not because of the quality of Canadian music, it's just I myself hadn't always necessarily put myself in a seat to listen to it. I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of factors for why I hadn't felt that way. But I definitely felt that way. I took that as a sign. I approached John. He was really open to it. And the rest is history. We made this recording, which I'm quite happy. There's so many things now I would do differently, having done it and listening back. But they're 24 beautiful pieces, modeled after Chopin's preludes. I mean, it's kind of this Mount Everest for a lot of composers, right? To write 24 preludes in all the keys. But John's are really beautiful. They touch on all different kinds of technical things, but also beautiful musical ideas sort of all throughout. Couldn't be happier that is the first solo album that I ever did. Really, cool. Really proud of that.
Also, the chance to work with a composer on their own music is just such a privilege, and a privilege that we don't get with most of the music that we deal with on a daily basis. So
totally. It can be so great. Sometimes it can be a bit of a slog,
yeah.
But it depends on the composer you're working with, you know? And with John, I have to say, when we first met on his pieces, I thought he was going to be, I mean, I don't mean to make this sound ridiculous, but I thought he was going to be quite pleased that I had accepted and I was doing this project, just as much as I was pleased that he accepted for me to do this and to take his music and record it. And so the first time we worked on it, he was really hard with me. The first hour, 2 hours, we were going through the pieces. I've told John now since, long after recording, so now he's heard this story, so it's not the first time. But after the first few hours, I thought to myself, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. He is so particular about what he would like, and it made me feel a little bit like there was a bit of a tight jacket coming on, and I was like, oh, I don't know how we're going to make this work. But I really wanted to take his ideas. It's his music, and I wanted to respect his wishes. I would almost rather, at the time, I was thinking to myself, what other pianists do I know who would work with this music and be able to kind of bring John's vision to life? Because I wasn't certain at the point it would be me, actually. At that point, it felt, at the end of our first rehearsal together, it felt like our points were quite divergent. Our ideas were quite... But then when we met again about a month later, whatever had happened, I actually didn't touch his pieces for a few weeks. I was just kind of, oh, I don't know about this. I came back to it and I said, okay, I'm going to try to remember what he had said. I'm going to try to create a synthesis of these. And by then he said, you know what? That's not how I would necessarily do it, but it sounds great. Like, go with it. You know? So I think somewhere along the way, maybe he had taken a step back, and I had also sort of taken a step forward towards what he was looking for. And then we found a really great working relationship, I think, to bring together this recording. So
that's really cool. And just remind us, what label is that recording out on?
It's under the Canadian Music Center label, so the CMC label. You can find it online if you ever want to get yourself a copy. It's also on Spotify if you want to listen to it. First,
buy the physical album.
Yeah. Buy the physical album, or give me 0.00001 cent per listen if you'd like. Either way works, but if you can, it's also because it's a beautiful album, and it's John's notes are really
the cover
great.
page is gorgeous.
Yeah. John did a really great job on all that.
Well, we're nearly ready to get back to the recital, but maybe just to close, just a few words about the program that you're playing this evening. Why you've chosen these pieces. What brought you to this program?
I would say it starts around the Moonlight Sonata, the Beethoven Sonata, number 14. And only because I hadn't played it before until Jonathan Crow asked me to do it for the Toronto Summer Music recordings. And so it seemed a good opportunity then to do it. And since I learned it for that and stressed out plenty enough, I thought I might as well just take that one and keep going with it. And so then I thought to myself, well, a really nice pairing, both musically and also just by happenstance by title, is the Debussy suite Bergamasque, which includes the Clair de Lune, the Moonlight piece. And so since I was doing that Debussy, and Debussy being one of my absolute favorite composers for all the colors that he creates and the atmospheres that he evokes, I'd always wanted to play Estampe, the set that you're going to hear next, actually, which is just a gorgeous piece that I'd always wanted to just kind of, I don't know why I hadn't actually, but so that seemed like a great thing, but I didn't want to put the two Debussys together, so I set them apart on either side. And then the Ravel and the Schubert are actually results of audience participation, or long story short, I told Carson I really wanted to include the audience on this one. This is my first real solo recital for the public live since March, 15. And so I'm so overjoyed and so grateful to Carson and other presenters out there who take the incredible responsibility and have the courage to put in all the work and all the research to make these things happen and to make it possible to connect performers and audiences. I'm forever grateful. And so because of that, I couldn't imagine a better way to not reward, to thank the audience for also having the courage to come out and to support all this, than offering them a chance to let them hear a piece they want. So I asked Carson to send out an email. Some people sent back their requests, and so one of them is actually from, I believe, one of Carson's students who asked for the Ravel. Sure, good choice, whatever, a million notes. And then the Schubert, there's the third impromptu that was requested. And I decided, again, that whole set is what I'd always wanted to play together, and I hadn't before. And so I decided, in fact, I would just play the whole set, including that requested work.
Well, can't wait to hear the second half of this evening's concert. And Philip, thanks a lot for doing this. It's kind of a cool addition to the concert. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Carson, as always.
Enjoy the second half.
Mr. Becky, I need you out of my zone. It's bread. It's nothing but bread. I'm holding it in, really. All right, so Carson's giving me the green light. I assume that means the live stream is also going. Thanks for staying. So we go back to Debussy. There's this quote attributed to him where he says, if you can't afford it, if you don't have the money to vacation, at least you can do it in your imagination. And wow, has that never been more awfully true than now? And it's not even about money, it's just we can't go anywhere. And this very much apropos for this next set of pieces called Estampe. 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 Merci. Printings or engravings. 3 movements where he takes us on a kind of a travel log of a few places. The first movement is pagode, as in pagodas, that you find in Asia. Right around this time, at the Paris World Exhibition, it's when the French in particular were just taking place in Paris, they were introduced to all kinds of music, in particular Indonesian gamelan music, these bells that we hit, and we hear the pentatonic scales and everything. That's why in French music around this time we hear a lot of that, actually, because they were blown away by these different sounds and different scales, and they rushed to find a way to incorporate that into their music. And so we have pagode, and just a little kind of, cutesy thing, right? Pagodas, they have these eaves, right? They're built out of layers in these towers. And some people have suggested that, in a way, Debussy is outlining. The French at this time, they were generally giving just feelings, atmosphere, just a sense of what things were. They weren't giving a strict narrative. They weren't trying to tell a very specific story. That doesn't mean that they weren't trying to depict certain things, and so some suggest that the way that these notes are laid out, the way they go up, it's as if you're kind of on one side of the pagoda and then down the other side, and it sort of keeps doing that over and over, which is kind of a nice little picturing thing. And then we have, what is it called all the time? I forget. It is La Soirée dans Grenade, so the evenings in Granada. So his depiction of Spain, what's funny is, just like with Asia, he'd never stepped, I think he spent like an hour or something in Madrid apparently. But Manuel de Falla, who's probably one of Spain's most famous composers, says, okay, yes, there is not like a microbe, an iota of Spanish folk music in here, but everything about this piece, it like breathes and bleeds Spanish music somehow. It's this kind of weird magic that he had, I suppose. Even more hilarious considering that the whole thing is based off the habanera rhythm. Like in Carmen, the opera, for example, which is considered more Cuban than purely Spanish. So whatever, somehow it's very Spanish. Take their word for it. And then the last one, he returns home to France. We know that he's depicting a small town in Normandy, and it's a rain and thunderstorm. And I don't know exactly where, because I'm not familiar with the tunes, but those of you who do know French nursery rhymes, apparently he's inserted 2 of them, fragments of them. And again, I'm going to sort of thrust an image on you. We can imagine like a small child, watching this sort of storm take place outside where there's a very beautiful garden. So there we go. Traveling because we can't fly. Please enjoy. Merci beaucoup. Okay, so we are arriving at the end of our night, but it's kind of a big piece, so don't run to your cars just yet. So it's by Franz Schubert, and this is another request that I've just sort of added on to from Marg. Hi, Marg. She requested a specific movement from a set of 4, and so I've always wanted to play all 4 anyway, and so I thought, why not? These are 4 pieces. They're called impromptus. As far as I know, again, I think it was a publisher-added thing. It was like an in vogue name for a piece, basically. Impromptus. It's supposed to mean it's improvisational and sort of the moment, but really these pieces are kind of anything but. Schubert is, if anything, best well known for his poetry, musical poetry, his melodic lines, the melodies that you hear. A lot of the music I played tonight actually had very little melody. Even the Beethoven, if you think about it, that first movement, it's actually the same note played 100 times. And then he moves off of it. But it's not like, it is haunting, but it's not the kind of thing you necessarily go away like humming in your shower just for fun. But Schubert melodies have a tendency to kind of get stuck in the brain sometimes. They're also known to be quite long, same way I speak, endlessly. They will just go until it runs out of ideas. Poetry, that's right. I'm walking poetry. What else did I want to say about them? Yeah, I remember now. When I was thinking about this program, I was thinking, what am I going to do? It seemed weird to play anything too profound, as if I was trying to make a statement about COVID. And it felt too silly to play anything too trite, as if I was trying to pretend like nothing was happening. And so I really appreciated Marg's request, actually, because Schubert, for me, embodies super, like, hard on your sleeve romanticism, this urge to want to communicate just everything that you're feeling, and also an incredible loneliness, a kind of a solitude that is really hard to otherwise sort of put into words, except with beautiful poetry, whether it's with words or music in this case. So Schubert, for me, for me, it's the most of this time. He's incredibly hard to play because he was so focused on music, what's being communicated, that he wasn't thinking about how hard it is, in fact, to do on the piano. He wasn't like researching biomechanics of piano playing in order to make that happen. So that's kind of it. I would be remiss if I did not thank one of the persons, since Carson got to thank his wife, who's, I'm sorry, just doing the bar. I must thank my beautiful partner, Marie, who got me here in one piece in her car. So thank you, Marie, for everything. Thank you all very much for coming. The first impromptu is the longest, if you will. It's March and it's many different things. And then the next 3, more or less, actually that's not true. The second and fourth are kind of the shorter ones. And the third is Marg's request. It's a beautiful song. And in fact, it's a good thing I stopped to just remind myself. We have this beautiful occasion to be together, and so I thought it would be really appropriate for me to publicly, because they already are over on social media anyway, congratulate my friends Carissa and Brandon on their engagement. And I dedicate to you the third movement of these impromptus. Thank you all for coming. See you soon.
Those of you watching online, you wouldn't have seen because most of the audience is behind you, but that was a full standing ovation for Phil's. Yes! I think that was a performance fitting of nothing but a standing ovation. That was just the most wonderful piano recital, and I can't think of a better way of bringing music back to Venturing Hills Farm than that. So thank you all so much for being here. Those of you here in person, those of you watching online. And let's just thank Phil one more time for what he's done. A fact that I wanted to include, had we had printed programs, I had this idea back in March, when we were meant to put on our first concert in 2020, and obviously the reality of the world has gone very differently than that. I saw this in London on the programs of the Royal Opera House, and I thought this was an interesting fact to include for every concert, but what number of performance this was at that venue. So we're obviously nowhere near the number of performances that have happened at the Royal Opera House in London, but this was concert number 58 in this concert venue. Since we started concerts in 2009. So, Phil, thank you for being the performer of number 58.
Why not?
So we'll have an audience of, again, 23 to 25 people joining us tomorrow for concert number 59.
But you were the better audience. Remember that. Just don't tell them that.
But so in terms of the exit strategy here, those of you online, your exit strategy is very simple. You just kind of turn off the computer and have another drink, I don't know, talk about the concert, donate to us, you can do that too. Go to sleep, it's totally up to you. Those of you here in person, if those of you at the back of the hall could exit through the back doors and go out more or less the way you came. And those of you at the front, if you can exit through this door, that will just help us get rid of any congestion at the back. And if you'd like to talk to Phil, which I'm sure many of you would like to do, he will be in the parking lot.
Please don't hit me on your way out.
This is just a way of us allowing for conversation but keeping social distance and being outdoors while we do it. So thank you all so much for coming, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you very much.
In person.